The monopoly powers of two of Mexico's richest businessmen, one being Carlos Slim, are coming under fire with a broad set of new laws that aim to open up the telecommunications and television businesses to competition. The plans, announced on Monday by the president, are aimed principally at Mr. Slim's telephone giant, América Móvil S.A.B., AMX.MX -3.31% and Mexico's leading broadcaster, Grupo Televisa ELEVISA.MX -0.85% SAB, which each controls 70% of their respective markets. The proposal calls for the creation of a new telecommunications regulator that would be able to order asset sales by companies that dominate a market, and limit companies' ability to stall competition through endless litigation. Creating a new competitive environment out of scratch could prove difficult for Mexico, where entrenched companies have strong ties to consumers. Televisa already produces a raft of Mexico's most popular programming, from news shows to daytime soap operas, making it that much harder for new entrants to grab viewers' attention. Any new telecom entrant, meanwhile, would have to invest billions of dollars to get started. Competition unleashes investment and innovation, fostering economic and social dynamism, said Mexican President Enrique Pena Nieto in a speech Monday in which he compared opening the country's telecom industry to battling illiteracy and building roads. The reforms, he said, represent challenges for the businesses of this sector, but they also open new opportunities. Carlos Slim, the world's richest man, has long had a grip on Mexican consumers' phone bills. His América Móvil controls 70% of Mexico's 100 million mobile phone subscribers. His fixed-line phone company, Telmex, controls more than 70% of Mexico's landlines. Televisa, meanwhile, is the biggest TV broadcaster in the country with 3 cable TV units as well as the larger of the country's 2 satellite television services. Televisa is controlled by Emilio Azcárraga. To a lesser extent, the new rules would also affect number 2 broadcaster TV Azteca S.A.B., controlled by Ricardo Salinas Pliego, another Mexican billionaire. The government wants to auction spectrum to give birth to 2 new digital broadcast networks, and it wants to create the new government not-for-profit television corporation that would transmit nationwide a broad range of content, including educational and cultural programs. Televisa on Monday said it gave its welcome to the initiative, adding that Mexico has long needed to modernize its laws related to the industry. TV Azteca had no comment. Mr. Slim's spokesman at Telmex had no comment. The new regulator, the Federal Telecommunications Institute, would replace the existing telecom agency, Cofitel. This is going to change very rapidly the reality of the market, and increase competition in the country, José Luis Peralta, a commissioner at current regulator Cofitel. The new regulator is being given lots of teeth, he added. Messrs. Slim, Azcárraga and Salinas Pliego have powerful profiles in the Mexican landscape, making Mr. Pena Nieto's challenge to them even more notable. Mr. Slim has been close to Mexican presidents for decades as the country's most wealthy businessman. Mr. Azcárraga's father, long known for his connections to the Mr. Pena Nieto's PRI party, once called himself a soldier of the PRI, and his son has maintained ties. Mr. Salinas Pliego is close to Mexico's rulers too. His daughter, Ninfa Salinas, is a Mexican senator. Some legislators are so well tied to the television industry that they are known as the TV caucus. A TV Azteca spokesman said that Ms. Salinas, who presides over the Environmental Committee, isn't involved in legislation related to the industry. Under the proposal, special courts would deal with regulatory disputes, and prohibit companies from blocking regulatory decisions through legal means while they are being challenged in court, something that has enabled companies to drag out unfavorable rulings for years. Hundreds of rulings by telecom regulator Cofitel against Mr. Slim's companies, for instance, have been held up in court for years. The proposal would also lift restrictions on foreign ownership in fixed-line telecommunications services. In addition, the government would set up a state-run wholesale telecommunications network, or carrier of carriers, to support its policy of expanding internet access to 70% of homes and 85% of businesses in the country. Even before the latest proposal, Mexico had begun to clamp down on the interconnection rates that América Móvil can charge when a customer dials a phone outside its network, causing such rates to fall 61% over the past 2 years. Analysts say high interconnection rates allowed América Móvil to keep competitors out by making it costly to use other carriers. Mexico's regulator also ruled that the company couldn't charge customers extra by rounding up calls to the next minute. And elsewhere in Latin America, some regulators have been getting tougher against the telecom company. Colombia, where América Móvil has a 60% market share, isn't allowing the company to participate in a spectrum auction that will take place later this year. América Móvil shares fell 3.3% Wednesday to 13.15 pesos $1.05 and are down 18% in the past month. Televisa's shares slipped 0.8% in Mexican trading to 67.70 pesos and are down 4.6% in the past month. Mr. Peña Nieto has been reasserting the power of the Mexican state against special interests, such as with plans to strip immunity for political leaders. The television and telecom proposals remain subject to changes by legislators, although the unprecedented backing of the main political leaders is expected to give them greater chances of passing Congress, where no one party has a majority in either house. For many on Monday, the latest moves in telecommunications signaled that Mr. Peña Nieto is ready to launch a long-awaited overhaul of Mexico's state-run oil industry, long closed to foreign investment. These reforms, from education to telecommunications, strengthen the president's political capital and pave the way for even more ambitious energy reform than might have happened otherwise, says Gray Newman, the senior Latin America economist at Morgan Stanley MS plus 0.30%. Last week, the chief advisor for Mr. Peña Nieto said a plan for a constitutional reform for the oil industry was very important and would be on its way soon. Economists say Mexico has stagnated for more than a decade as its three political parties bickered, but under a pact signed by its three main political parties in December, which includes economic reforms that the government says could increase its GDP by as much as 1.8%.